Hi, my friends. Today I want to present you a new story. Enjoy watching it. The night air was brisk as I made my way down the cobblestone street toward Mama's Fish Kitchen. The familiar, comforting glow of its windows beckoned me forward, promising warmth and a hearty meal. As I stepped inside, the rich aroma of seafood stew enveloped me, a welcome reprieve from the chill outside. The restaurant was sparsely populated, with a few diners scattered around, engrossed in their meals. I approached the counter with a hopeful smile, eager for a taste of the comfort food I had been craving all day. "Good evening," I greeted the hostess. "Just a table for one, please." She glanced up, her eyes scanning my appearance with a hint of apprehension. "Do you have a reservation?" she asked, her tone guarded. I shook my head. No, I didn't think I needed one. The hostess hesitated, glancing nervously towards the back of the restaurant where Elio, the new manager, was surveying the scene with a critical eye. He had been hired a few weeks ago, replacing the beloved former manager, and had already made several unpopular changes. "I'm sorry, but we're fully booked tonight," she said, her voice lacking conviction. I looked around at the half-empty restaurant and frowned. "Are you sure? I can wait if needed." Elio strode over, his expression stern. "We're not taking walk-ins tonight," he said curtly. "We have a very important guest arriving, and we need to maintain our reputation." I felt my face flush with a mix of embarrassment and frustration. "I can pay for my meal, you know. I'm not here to cause trouble." Elio's gaze hardened. "It's not about the money. We can't have people like you giving the wrong impression. Please leave." Before I could respond, a voice piped up from a nearby table. "That's not right," an older gentleman protested. "This is Mama's Fish Kitchen, not some exclusive club. Let the man eat." Elio's face remained unmoved. "We have standards to uphold," he insisted, dismissing the man's words with a wave of his hand. Feeling a mix of anger and humiliation, I turned to leave. But just as I reached the door, a woman's voice called out from behind the counter, "Wait." I turned to see an elderly woman with kind eyes and a warm smile. "I'm sure we can find a place for you," she said, casting a reproachful glance at Elio. "Please come with me." Elio's jaw tightened, but he said nothing as the woman led me to a small table near the back of the restaurant. "Thank you," I said, grateful for her kindness. She patted my shoulder. "Don't let him get to you. Mama's Fish Kitchen has always been a place for everyone." As I settled into my seat, I noticed Elio's eyes burning into me from across the room. The tension was palpable, and I couldn't shake the feeling that this was far from over. I ordered my meal, trying to focus on the comforting aroma of the food rather than the unease settling in my stomach. Halfway through my meal, the door swung open, and a group of well-dressed individuals entered, their laughter and conversation filling the room. At their center was a tall man with a distinguished air, his presence commanding attention. It was Bastien Lefebvre, the world-renowned chef, here to oversee the restaurant's rebranding. Elio hurried over to greet him, his demeanor shifting from stern to obsequious in an instant. "Mr. Lefebvre, welcome. We're honored to have you here." Bastien nodded, his sharp eyes taking in the restaurant. "Thank you, Elio. I trust everything is in order." "Of course, sir," Elio replied, casting a quick, disdainful glance in my direction. "We've made sure everything is perfect for your visit." As Bastien and his entourage were seated, I couldn't help but feel a sense of foreboding. The changes Elio had implemented were about to be scrutinized by the very man they were meant to impress. I just hoped that in the pursuit of excellence, the heart of Mama's Fish Kitchen wouldn't be lost forever. The hum of conversation and clinking of cutlery filled the air, mingling with the rich scent of seafood as the restaurant buzzed with anticipation. Bastien Lefebvre, the renowned chef whose name alone commanded respect, had entered Mama's Fish Kitchen. His presence was a harbinger of change, and everyone, from the staff to the diners, felt the gravity of the moment. Elio, the new manager, was a flurry of activity. He hovered near Bastien's table, ensuring every detail was perfect. The staff, who had grown weary of Elio's abrupt changes and demanding nature, moved with renewed caution, aware that this night could determine their future. "Everything must be flawless," Elio whispered to a waiter, his eyes darting around the room. "This is our chance to prove ourselves." At a nearby table, I watched the scene unfold. my heart pounding with a mix of anxiety and curiosity. The elderly woman who had seated me earlier, whom I now recognized as Mama, moved gracefully through the restaurant, her presence a calming contrast to Elio's frenetic energy. Bastien surveyed the room with an air of calm authority, his eyes sharp and discerning. "Elio, tell me about the changes you've implemented," he said, his voice carrying easily over the murmur of the diners. Elio straightened, eager to impress. "We've revamped the menu to feature more contemporary dishes, updated the decor to reflect a modern aesthetic, and refined our customer service to attract a more upscale clientele." Bastien nodded thoughtfully. "And the response from your regular patrons?" Elio hesitated, casting a quick glance at the staff, who continued their work with lowered eyes. "There has been some resistance, but change is never easy. I believe in time they will come to appreciate the improvements." Suddenly, the door to the kitchen swung open, and a tall figure in a crisp chef's jacket stepped out. He was older, with a kind face and eyes that sparkled with intelligence. He walked directly to Bastien's table, carrying a steaming dish. "Bastien," the chef said warmly, setting the plate down. "It's an honor to have you here." Bastien's eyes lit up with recognition. "Henry, I didn't know you were part of this establishment." Henry smiled. "I've been here for years. Mama's Fish Kitchen has always been close to my heart." Bastien tasted the dish Henry had brought, a smile spreading across his face. "Exquisite, as always, Henry. This is what I remember, simple, heartfelt, and incredibly delicious." Elio shifted uncomfortably, sensing the shift in Bastien's attention. "We've been working hard to modernize the menu." Bastien held up a hand. "Modernization is good, Elio, but not at the expense of what makes a place special. This dish," he gestured to Henry's creation, "it's a reminder of that." Mama stepped forward, her eyes fixed on Bastien. "Mr. Lefebvre, this restaurant has always been about family and community. These changes—" Bastien nodded. "I understand, Mama. Change is necessary, but it must be balanced with tradition. Henry's dish embodies that balance." Elio's face reddened, but he forced a smile. "Of course, Mr. Lefebvre. We can certainly find a way to incorporate both." As the evening wore on, the diners relaxed, sensing a return to the familiar warmth of Mama's Fish Kitchen. Bastien's visit was not just a critique, but a reminder of the restaurant's essence. The balance between innovation and tradition was delicate, but it was one that needed to be struck. As I finished my meal, I felt a renewed hope for the future of the restaurant. The special guest had arrived, and with his discerning palate and respect for tradition, he had set the stage for a new beginning, one that honored the past while embracing the future. The tension in the restaurant was palpable. Bastien Lefebvre's presence loomed large, his discerning eye evaluating every detail. Elio, the ambitious new manager, had one goal: to ensure nothing marred the evening and secured Bastien's approval. His gaze kept drifting to the man at the corner table, the diner whose appearance clashed with the polished veneer Elio envisioned for the restaurant. As the evening progressed, Elio's frustration grew. The diner had not left despite repeated hints and a check delivered prematurely. Instead, the man had insisted on finishing his meal, defying Elio's carefully laid plans. "Is there a problem, Elio?" Bastien asked, noticing the manager's distracted demeanor. Elio forced a smile. "No, Mr. Lefebvre. Everything is under control." But it wasn't. Desperation gnawed at Elio as he concocted a plan to rid the restaurant of the unwanted diner without creating a scene. He slipped into the kitchen, signaling to one of the chefs. "Russell," Elio said in a low voice, "I need you to do something for me. See that Tuscan chicken for table 6. Add a little extra seasoning." Russell frowned, looking up from his station. "What do you mean, extra seasoning?" Elio leaned closer, his voice barely a whisper. "Something to make him drowsy. Nothing harmful, just enough to make him want to leave." Russell hesitated, glancing at the busy kitchen around him. "Elio, I don't know if—" "Just do it," Elio snapped. "Trust me, it's for the good of the restaurant." Reluctantly, Russell complied, sprinkling a bit of a harmless, yet potent, herb known to induce drowsiness. The dish was soon ready, and Elio himself carried it out, placing it in front of the diner with a tight smile. "Here you are, sir," Elio said. "Enjoy your meal." The man looked up, weariness etched into his features, but there was a stubborn glint in his eyes. "Thank you," he replied, lifting his fork. Elio hovered nearby, pretending to straighten napkins and adjust table settings, all the while watching the man. As the diner ate, his eyelids began to droop, and he rubbed his eyes, struggling to stay awake. Across the room, Bastien noticed the interaction. "Excuse me, Elio," he called, beckoning the manager over. "Could you come here for a moment?" Elio's heart raced, but he masked his anxiety with a composed expression. "Yes, Mr. Lefebvre?" Bastien glanced at the sleepy diner and then back at Elio. "I couldn't help but notice that gentleman over there. He seems rather fatigued. Is everything all right?" Elio forced a laugh. "Oh, him? Yes, he's just had a long day, but everything is fine, I assure you." Bastien raised an eyebrow, unconvinced but unwilling to press further. "Very well. Let's continue our discussion about the menu, shall we?" As the evening wore on, the diner slumped in his chair, barely able to keep his eyes open. Elio felt a grim satisfaction. His plan was working, but just as he was about to approach and suggest the man leave, the front door swung open and a reporter from Channel 7 News burst in, camera crew in tow. "Good evening," the reporter announced. "We're here to cover the exciting rebranding of Mama's Fish Kitchen under the legendary Bastien Lefebvre." The restaurant fell silent, all eyes on the commotion. Elio's heart sank. The last thing he needed was more attention, especially now. Bastien stood, greeting the reporter with a warm smile. "Welcome. We're delighted to have you here." The reporter's gaze swept the room and landed on the drowsy diner. She exchanged a look with her cameraman, and they quickly moved towards him. "Sir, are you all right?" she asked, concern evident in her voice. The diner blinked, trying to focus. "I'm fine, just very tired." The reporter turned to Elio, suspicion in her eyes. "What happened here?" Elio stammered. "He's just tired from a long day. Nothing to worry about." Bastien intervened, his authoritative presence calming the situation. "Let's focus on the positive changes happening here at Mama's Fish Kitchen. Shall we move to the newly designed area for the interview?" The distraction worked, and the crew followed Bastien, leaving Elio to breathe a sigh of relief. But his reprieve was short-lived. Mama, having observed the entire scene, approached him, her expression stern. "Elio, we need to talk," she said quietly but firmly. Elio nodded, swallowing hard. He knew he was in trouble, but there was no turning back now. The wheels had been set in motion, and the consequences of the scheme were about to unfold. The morning after the tumultuous evening, the restaurant buzzed with anticipation. Bastien Lefebvre's visit had sparked excitement, but it was Elio's vision that now dominated the conversation. The staff gathered around the newly designed lounge area, eyeing the sleek, modern decor with mixed emotions. Elio stood at the center, his demeanor confident as he addressed the team. "Today marks the beginning of a new era for this establishment. We're no longer just Mama's Fish Kitchen. We are Mama's Pescar Trattoria, a fusion of France's elegance and coastal charm." The room remained silent, a few staff members exchanging wary glances. Elio pressed on, gesturing towards the new menus. These have been meticulously curated to attract a sophisticated clientele. We will be offering dishes like tuna rigatoni and osso buco, alongside high-end cocktails. This change will bring us into a new league of dining experiences. Vanessa, a longtime server, raised her hand. "What about our regulars? They come here for the fish tacos and salmon burgers. Won't they be upset?" Elio's smile was thin. "Change is never easy, Vanessa, but we must evolve to survive. Trust me, they'll come to appreciate the new offerings." As Elio spoke, Mama quietly observed from the back of the room. Her presence was a comforting reminder of the restaurant's history, but today, her expression was unreadable. She watched as Elio unveiled his plans with a mix of ambition and arrogance. The staff dispersed to prepare for the day's service, and Elio approached Mama. "I know this is a lot to take in, but these changes are necessary. The market demands it." Mama nodded slowly. I understand the need for progress, Elio, but don't forget the heart of this place. It's more than just a restaurant to our customers. Elio dismissed her concerns with a wave of his hand. You'll see, Mama. This will be the best thing that ever happened to us. As lunch service began, the new menu debuted to a mixture of curiosity and skepticism. Regular patrons peered at the unfamiliar dishes, their faces etched with uncertainty. Some tried the new offerings, while others stuck to the few remaining familiar items. In the kitchen, Russell and the other chefs struggled to keep up with the new recipes. The tension was palpable, and Elio's constant presence only added to the pressure. Russell, how's the osso buco coming along? Elio demanded, his tone impatient. It's almost ready, Russell replied, beads of sweat forming on his brow. But it's not like anything we've made before. It takes time. Well, hurry up. We can't afford to have any delays, Elio snapped. Meanwhile, in the dining area, a group of regulars voiced their discontent. What happened to the salmon burgers? One patron grumbled, and these prices? It's ridiculous. Vanessa approached their table, trying to soothe their frustrations. I know it's different, but give it a chance. The new dishes are really something special. Across the room, Mama observed the scene unfold, her heart heavy. She knew change was inevitable, but Elio's vision seemed to be pushing away the very people who had kept the restaurant alive for decades. As the day wore on, the initial curiosity gave way to complaints. Dishes were sent back to the kitchen, and the staff struggled to keep up with the new pace. Elio's face grew darker with each setback. In a quiet moment, Mama pulled Vanessa aside. We need to be patient, she said gently. This transition won't be easy, but we must stay true to what makes this place special. Vanessa nodded, her expression conflicted. I just hope Elio understands that. Just then, a commotion erupted at the entrance. Mr. Jenkins, the restaurant's owner, strode in, his face a mask of displeasure. He was flanked by a few of the loyal patrons who had left earlier, their grievances now directed at the source of their frustration. Elio, we need to talk, Mr. Jenkins called out, his voice carrying over the din. Elio turned, surprise flickering in his eyes. Mr. Jenkins, I didn't expect you back so soon. Mr. Jenkins' gaze was stern. I heard about the changes, and I see they haven't been well received. We need to reconsider our approach. Before Elio could respond, Mama stepped forward. Mr. Jenkins, these changes are too much, too fast. We're losing the essence of what made Mama's fish kitchen special. Elio bristled, but Mr. Jenkins held up a hand. Mama's right. We need to find a balance. Change is necessary, but not at the expense of our loyal customers and our identity. Elio's face hardened, but he nodded. Very well. We'll find a way to incorporate the new with the old. As the day came to a close, the staff gathered their thoughts, hoping the balance between tradition and innovation would restore the harmony that had once defined Mama's Fish Kitchen. The tension in the restaurant reached a breaking point as the evening crowd filled the newly revamped Mama's Pescar Trattoria. Despite Elio's attempts to modernize the menu and decor, the spirit of the old Mama's Fish Kitchen lingered, creating an uneasy atmosphere. Mr. Jenkins and Mama sat together at a corner table, their faces etched with concern as they observed the night's events unfold. Elio moved through the restaurant, his confidence visibly shaken. He could feel the discontent in the air, the dissatisfaction of regular patrons, and the unease of the staff. Determined to prove his vision, he approached Mr. Jenkins and Mama, forcing a smile. Good evening, he greeted them. I trust you'll see the changes are for the better. Mr. Jenkins glanced at Mama, who gave a subtle nod before addressing Elio. We're willing to give it a chance, Elio, but the feedback we're receiving isn't promising. Our regulars feel alienated, and the new menu isn't resonating as we'd hope. Elio's expression tightened. Change is always met with resistance. Once they get used to it, they'll appreciate the sophistication we're bringing. As the night wore on, the complaints from diners grew louder. A table of regulars, led by an elderly couple, caught everyone's attention. The man, clearly frustrated, called out, "What happened to the salmon burgers? We've been coming here for 20 years, and now we can't even get our favorite dish." Vanessa approached their table, trying to calm them. "I understand your frustration, sir. We're trying to find a balance between the old and the new." The man shook his head. "If this is what balance looks like, then count us out." Mr. Jenkins sighed and rose from his seat. "Enough," he declared, drawing everyone's attention. "It's clear that these changes are not working. Mama's Fish Kitchen has always been about community, family, and tradition. We've lost sight of that." Elio stepped forward, his face a mask of defiance. "Mr. Jenkins, you hired me to bring this place into the modern era. We can't cling to the past if we want to succeed." Mama stood, her presence commanding respect. "Elio, progress is important, but not at the expense of our heart and soul. We need to find a way to honor our roots while embracing the future." A murmur of agreement spread through the restaurant. Elio's face reddened as he realized the tide had turned against him. "Fine," he snapped. "If you think you can do better, be my guest." Mr. Jenkins stepped forward, his voice firm. "You're right, Elio. We can't. You're dismissed." Elio stared at him, stunned. "You can't be serious." "I am," Mr. Jenkins replied. "You've lost the trust of our customers and our staff. It's time to part ways." As Elio stormed out, the staff and patrons let out a collective sigh of relief. Mr. Jenkins turned to Mama, a grateful smile on his face. "Thank you, Mama, for reminding us of what's truly important." Mama nodded, her eyes warm. "It's not about fancy menus or high prices. It's about making people feel at home." The following day saw a return to the restaurant's roots. The old menu items reappeared, and the familiar decor was restored. Vanessa and Russell worked tirelessly to ensure a smooth transition, their spirits lifted by the renewed sense of purpose. One evening, as the dinner rush began to wind down, Mr. Jenkins gathered the staff. "I want to thank all of you for your patience and dedication during this transition. We've learned a valuable lesson about balancing tradition with innovation. Mama's Fish Kitchen is back, stronger than ever." The staff cheered, their camaraderie restored. Vanessa approached Mama, her eyes shining. "Thank you for standing up for us, Mama. We were afraid we'd lost what made this place special." Mama smiled, her voice gentle. "We never lost it, Vanessa. We just needed a reminder." As the night drew to a close, the restaurant buzzed with a renewed sense of community. Regulars and new patrons alike filled the tables, their laughter and conversation creating a symphony of joy. Mama's Fish Kitchen had weathered the storm and emerged with its heart intact, ready to face whatever the future might bring.